Hello everybody and welcome back to Watching Walford. What's on the menu for today? We're going to examine just how Hollyoaks is doing to end 2024 and the start of 2025. Now, I'll say this with a caveat. I've fully just got through all the Christmas episodes. I didn't watch it at the time. I was rushed off my feet doing the video essay. So now I'm going to discuss how Hollyoaks ended the year. And I'm not going to talk about the new episodes just yet because I've not fully watched them through. But I wanted to, before I clog the brain with even more knowledge, I wanted to unzip, as Doctor Who would do, like a Slovene, and just break down how I found the Christmas episodes to be. Now, the Christmas episodes as a whole, there were 6 episodes over Christmas, obviously 20 minutes each. So it was a 2-hour block of episodes, all released in one. Now, let's just say I like this approach to Christmas. I like this approach to Hollyoaks. I don't necessarily think it would work in any other show simply because the other show's Christmas usually a bit more impactful than Hollyoaks. If there's like, but that's not a problem as such. Hollyoaks doesn't really try to have as bold as Big Christmas is, but even then, something is kind of awry. You would hope that they'd start to bulk up the holidays, but then they do a lot more stunts through the year. They have a different schedule. You know, things go a lot faster in Hollyoaks than they do in other soaps. So it's not entirely a bad thing, but fundamentally, I think these Christmas episodes were quite good. I enjoyed them fundamentally. You have the return of Myra and Nana McQueen, 2 characters who seem like they're going to be somewhat regular supporting cast. Nana McQueen's back to Alicante now, but Myra is staying for the foreseeable, probably like a month, let's be honest. We got to see the confession of Sienna killing Ethan, which still have some bad feelings about that, but as time's gone on, they've drawn it out long enough that I don't really care anymore. Sorry, Ethan, you were great, but ultimately it's time to accept and move on. We have Cleo getting out of Abe's control, but she crashes the wedding, gets hit by Marie's car, and proceeds to be, now she's in an induced coma to try and help her get better. How do I feel about that? We have the Freddie and Mercedes getting together only to be scuppered by a Christmas gunshot which affected Grace Black. And we also have had some more intrigue into who Alex or Jacob, who Jacob's mum is. Someone who Darren made friends with whilst he was staying with Charlie. It's like peeping over the fence. Now we're going to finally understand who they are, what's happening to them, and why. And elsewhere, we had some fairly sizable, fairly rich Ray, Dylan, and Lucas scenes. Just to get the stands, just to remind them what they're missing and what they're yearning for. And we also finally reached the stage in the Hutchinsons' divorce where they have finally decided to go their separate ways. So, but this means that Tony's going to be moving out of the dog, and he's going to be moving in with Marie and the Lomaxes, but the main issue is Ro has been bullying, cripplingly transphobic to Ro, which has been bullying him and making his life a misery. So all of that. It is a good set of episodes, I do agree, and I think it has generally ended the year out strong. Obviously, if I was a critic, which I am, that is my role, let me just reiterate, I am supposed to critique the show, or say it's good, and say it's bad when it's bad, and do a bit of analysis. It's kind of the whole fucking point of being a talking head, you know? My opinion is supposed to be relatively valid. Even if I say it's been bad recently, doesn't mean I believe it's been bad overall. So, you know, let's just keep that in mind. But still, back to the Hollyoaks. That was just some petty grievances. I think, I don't know, it's a weird place for Hollyoaks because it's still in the wake of the time jump, but obviously it's been multiple months now, so the time jump storylines have settled down. A lot of the characters we expected to leave are gone. A lot of the characters who we expect to stay are still here for some reason. Like Diane. Is Diane staying? Who the fuck knows, honestly? Like, it feels like she could leave at any moment, but it feels like she could also stay forever. But I'd argue she'll probably leave fairly soon, realizing that it's not all that much fun, being alone. The choice to have Abe be the recurring villain is an important one to say and an important one to enjoy. I think it's a pretty interesting choice because he's done such horrific things and surrounded in soap as of late in general, where a lot of these soap villains have been abusers. JJ, abuser. Abe, abuser. Joel, Coronation Street, abuser. Tom King, Emmerdale, abuser. And there's been a lot of abusers who haven't necessarily faced justice for their actions. But Hollyoaks, taking a different approach, has typically made its way into... They have made Abe incredibly irredeemable, and they're making JJ incredibly irredeemable. And with that said, they will get justice. Like, the victims will get justice, because I firmly believe that as much as Hollyoaks does like to parade these characters around as they are the big bad wolf, I fundamentally believe that Hollyoaks will make these characters pay for their crimes, and that's what they've done. Christmas is about Abe's mask slipping. He caused some aggro for Mercedes, says, "I hope the cancer kills you, and I'll dance on your grave." He continues to stick around with Perry, but he's still kind of leering over Cleo, who has resurfaced, and everybody's generally realizing, other than Marie, that at the end of the day, Abe is a pretty wrought bloke, to put it lightly, and there's no real point in actually putting forward like any reason to believe that he's gotten any better. So I like the Abe stuff. I think the actor's doing a fantastic job about it. It takes a certain level of courage to become a horrific abuser on screen, just because of the backlash that you'll get for portraying a character, because I feel like he's been a very effective character. It's always a problem when you make these abusers where you want to have them still be somewhat measured, because you don't want them to be a caricature of an abuser. You want them to actually be realistic. But he has historically had a problem with women and needs that control, and he will take that control no matter what, which is horrific. But I still think that as a character, he's quite believable. I think that as a whole, they've done a really good job of this story, grown worthy as it may be, but it's simply because we know the truth about who Abe is and what he's like, and it is just frustrating seeing characters who we like have to deal with the consequences of Abe still being around. But as a whole, it feels like, honestly, I think I heard some rumors, but it feels like there's a high chance we do get a Who Killed Abe storyline. Like, I know a whodunit's quite bold, and it's not been too long since the previous Reign one, but fundamentally, if there's any character who has angered so many families on the show, I feel like Abe is probably the right candidate for a whodunit, especially as he has been a overarching villain over the past year. Like, the immersion and the emergence and the preceded and the just setting a precedent to just not be redeemable in any way, and he is angering many people. So I wouldn't be surprised if we get a Who Killed Abe, and I think that would be a quite satisfying conclusion to the character, because, you know, admittedly, it would be nice for him to go to jail for his crimes, but also, how do you really make him pay for the suffering he's caused. Yes, by prison, but in true soap fashion, I wouldn't mind another whodunit. Maybe it's a bold take, maybe it's kind of ridiculous, but perhaps, perhaps. Let's talk about Freddie, Grace, and Mercedes. This stuff's a bit outlandish, and I don't really... I understand why they went this direction, but to me, it came out of fucking nowhere, because the story going into Christmas is Grace is terrified that Mercedes and Freddie gonna inevitably get together, and Freddie's gonna leave her, and he's gonna leave her all alone. And she has pretty good merit to believe that, because Freddie and Mercedes are falling in love with each other. Mercedes has already proven she has feelings for Freddie, and Freddie has pretty much proven he has feelings, or she has feelings for him. So with that being said, now it just becomes the push and pull, the tug of war between Mercedes and Grace, with Freddie in the middle, and hoping that neither of them slip up and fall on their face, but neither really do. Mercedes still not getting good news about the cancer. She believes this is her last Christmas. Mara's like, Mercedes, no one's told you you're gonna die. You can't just give up. And Mercedes is like, yeah, but I am struggling though. Like, at the end of the day, I don't want to live like this. But she continues and has a bunk off with Freddie, who says he loves her and says he loves everything about her. But on, is it Christmas night? On Christmas night, essentially, I think it's, they proceed to all stumble out onto the street, and a red laser point shows up, hovers over Freddie. It's a sniper shot, and it's gonna hover over Freddie. But Grace, standing out, dressed in red, everything red, the easiest target to hit, she gets in the way of the laser sight and gets shot and is badly hurt. But she's not dead. So they then reveal that Rex shot Grace, and it was all a plan to make sure that Freddie isn't going to run off with Mercedes. Oh, gee, absolute Grace madness. So yeah, fucking so that's who gets shot. That was the trailer. Who gets shot? It's fucking Grace. And she organized herself getting shot, and she even said, "You know what, Rex? If there's one person, I could only trust one person to do that, and that was you. So good job on shooting me. Could have died. Could have been scary. But well, fuck it." Kind of ridiculous, but in the same way, it's Grace Black. It works. She can pull off anything. So this puts Freddie and Mercedes' relationship on the back burner, as Mercedes wants to know if Freddie's going to leave with her, but Freddie, still furious over who shot Grace, trying to figure out who did it, proceeds to tell Mercedes that he never loved her and he just told her what he wanted her to hear, because she's pathetic, essentially. Which, you know, dick move from Freddie, but still, this puts Mercedes back in tow with her family, reminding her what's important, and it's not Freddie Roscoe. Not even the best Roscoe she's been with. That was Joe. I don't know about that, but yeah, fair enough. But continuing forward, though, I think the Grace, Mercedes, Freddie stuff is a strange one. I don't think anybody necessarily wants or believes in Freddie, Grace, and Mercedes. Like, I don't mind Freddie and Mercedes, but the Freddie and Grace partnership is one that is quite confusing as a whole. I get that it was quite a cool way to initially reintroduce the Roscoes as we know them now, and I think it's worked for that, but now it is time for Freddie and Grace to break up, and it's time for Grace to be with someone else, or just herself. And judging from what we see in the trailer, she'll still continue to be with Grace, but I am looking forward to the era of Grace Black, where she lives up to the family name, lives up to being Fraser Black's daughter. She will retake her throne as the head bitch in charge, as the top gangster in Chester. And hopefully this will put Robbie in his place, because yes, he did kill Blue, but nobody believes in Freddy, in Robbie as a genuine scary gangster, you know? Phil Mitchell, he is not. Warren Fox, he is not. Kane Dingle, he is not. But moving on though, I look forward to seeing more scenes with Myra and Mercedes. I think I would love for Myra to constantly come in and out if she's not going to stay on the show for a consistent amount of time. But I'll also still say I think the actress does a great job, and Nana McQueen as well. It's a treat to see both of them, and I will enjoy it for however long they're there. Obviously, Nana McQueen has gone already, but I would love to keep seeing Myra pop in and out every now and then. It would be great. If only we could see Sally again, that would be cool. But, you know, she's not going to return, is she? Because she got fucking fired. Then let's talk about the Ro and Arlo stuff. Because with Tony and Marie getting together, it's meant that Arlo, who is already been vocally a shitty little knobhead, he's already been showing signs of he's just inherently transphobic. He is quite like Abe in a way, where he is consistently transphobic to Ro and wants to make their life notably worse. And Ro has been coping with drinking, perhaps inspired by Diane's behavior with alcohol, which has just spiraled completely more, as even though Ro is at a stage where they're quite content with their gender identity, it's obviously going to get rattled when someone is telling you, and as Arlo tells her, like, Happy New Year, kill yourself. In a video game, YouTube, in a video game, in a video. But he is genuinely wishing death upon Ro, which is, you know, insufferable. And what's this? I don't know how Marie had two absolute shitters of a children. And then you have Joel, who, you know, he's still not great, but he's in comparison, he's the patron saint of the Fieldings, even though he is a fox. Or he's a Dexter. Who cares? Who cares? But we get what feels to be the ending of Diane, as she wants to rekindle stuff with Tony, claims she relapsed, but quickly on, Tony realizes. They have a kiss. Finally, like, this is right, this is what it should be, this is what it always should be, this is how it is, it's important, we should stay together. They kiss, but Tony in the end hears that Diane faked the relapse, hasn't relapsed, and she wants to spend New Year's, like the countdown to the new year, with Tony. She gets all dressed up, she talks to Ro, and they realize, and she finds him kissing Marie, ultimately putting Tony and Diane in the past, and Diane once again out on her ass because she lied to Tony and faced the consequences for it. I could go either way on this. I somewhat like the Tony and Marie pairing. I think it's quite an interesting one, and I think it's quite a statement of intent, where Tony is a character. If Tony ever gets axed, it's because he's leaving. Simply saying, Tony has a job for life at Hollyoaks. And when you put a new character, a newly established character, with a long-running character, there's a chance they, you know, are in it for the long haul. So ultimately, Marie being put with Tony, melding the families together. Now we have a weird Hutchinson-Lomax Hay combination of a family. Fielding as well, I guess. Now we have this united clique, which gives them all more family to play around. Perhaps in the end, maybe Arlo will learn from his transphobia and stop being a absolute prick. And I do swear fairly frequently, but not to put it lightly. That is putting it very lightly. But as the marriage has fallen apart, Ro has continued to drink and is drinking to cope. Not a very good precedent, I won't lie. I don't really like this precedent in Hollyoaks, where you have two of the struggling teenagers falling onto booze in order to deal with their problems, with Frankie Osborne and now Ro, two characters who are, cripplingly abusing alcohol to get over their issues. It's not something it's not a precedent you really want to set. It's not a healthy way to do it, but then they are teenagers and ultimately they make their decisions. Tony decides it's time for him and Ro to move out of the pub, because if he's heavily drinking, let's take him out of the place where they would find the most access to drink, which means he's going to move in to the Lomaxes with Marie and Ro, which pits a bully with the victim, as Arlo is still threatening and still saying more and more really offensive things to Ro. And I can't lie, it will probably continue. But as we've seen in the trailer, it feels like Abe's time is coming to an end. So therefore, perhaps Arlo will start to realize the error in his ways, and maybe they can actually be friends and he can become an ally. Like I said, I somewhat enjoyed the Tony-Diane relationship, but fundamentally, when it was teased that Diane was leaving, I was never particularly upset, because she's a good character, and I'm happy that she birthed Sinead. I'm happy that Sinead exists because of her. But also, at the end of the day, I feel like her best days on the show are over, and they didn't really know how to keep Tony and Diane happy, so they just kept on causing more problems for them. I look forward to this new bit with Tony. I look forward to him no longer owning the dog, and I look forward to seeing who owns the pub afterwards. Because it's not as much of a big deal as EastEnders, for example, or the Rovers in Coronation Street. Like, it's not as influential on the show as who runs the Queen Vicar, who runs the Rovers, but it's still a big focal part. A lot of people eat and drink there, a lot of exposition, etc., etc. So I look forward to seeing who takes ownership of the dog. That'll be exciting to see. What else have I forgotten to talk about so far? I guess the last two things I can go into, and then I'll do another video in a week or so, kind of recapping the next week of Hollyoaks again, as I do want to get back into the swing of doing the Hollyoaks content regularly. I think let's talk about the final two main pieces to me. Vicky is continuing to lie about about baby Roscoe. She keeps saying it's Robbie's, but they all know that it's Freddie's. This is just causing more problems, but she somewhat decides to buckle down and wants to believe that it's going to all work out in the end. It's all going to work out in the end, and let's just act like it's Robbie's. And she basically proposes and says, "Oh no, we're having a baby. We should fucking get married." And he's like, "What the fuck? What am I meant to do with that?" The Vicky character is an interesting one. I think it shows the lack of characters her age on the show at this point, that she's now going for people multiple generations apart from her in Robbie, in Freddie. It does happen, but it kind of shows the lack of cast to bounce off the age. It's not a bad thing. I like how they're trying to... It feels like they want her to be the next Mercedes, in a way. And that is a very hard thing to earn. And you can't be put in that spot and expected to glide, because fundamentally, even Mercedes did it, and even she struggled. Like, Jennifer Metcalf is an icon. She is fantastic. She is probably never going to be seen again in terms of soaps. She is lightning in a bottle, and she is a generational talent in terms of soap characters. Everything had to go right to have Mercedes be who she is. So yeah, it's big shoes to try and fill, but I like that they are thinking towards the future and, you know, making her a still teen mum. Interesting way to do it, and I look forward to seeing what she does. I think she's firmly stepped up to the plate, considering before the time jump she was something of an afterthought. So full credit there. And what else is there? I had another topic I was going to go into. Oh, and finally, Perry is starting to figure out the truth about Abe, which has set the wheels in motion for a horrific attack that Abe is going to inflict on her. A horrific sexual assault that will be taking place in episodes just having gone by that I haven't reacted to yet. So, all in all, I think Hollyoaks is in quite a good place going into 2025. I think they've made a good start, and I fundamentally believe that they are still righting some of the wrongs, and they are continuing to work with the best that they have. I was being a bit of a doomsayer about the quality of Hollyoaks, but I think there's going to be a lot of good stuff to come, and I'm just slightly unsure of what's going to come next, because we've just gone past the generational storyline, the groundbreaking, one of the best Frankie and JJ twincest sexual abuse storyline, which for me is one of the most groundbreaking stories in Hollyoaks and soap history. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do next, because ultimately it was a truly remarkable storyline, and it positioned really strong actors: Isabel Smith, Dylan Mulvey, Ashley Taylor Dawson. I forgot Nancy's name, but she's fantastic. And it put them all in the right places and gave them enough room to tell this really serious story. So I'm a bit worried to see what's next, but I believe we are in safe hands, and I'm no longer pushing the buttons saying I'm worried about Hollyoaks' future. Honestly, if it stays like this and they continue to do more of the same, I think it should be safe for the future. So that's a turnaround for me. I think Hollyoaks is in a really good place coming into 2025, and I look forward to covering it on the channel, hopefully every week. But yeah, that's the video. Did I miss anything? Do you want me to talk about anything else? Tell me in the comment section down below. I've been Ash from Watching Walford. Thank you for watching. Join me next time. Bye-bye.